Hello, patrons. This is Cyber Saloon. So today we're going to be going over the newest episode of Sensei Slime. And this episode kind of felt like a filler episode. It was definitely kind of a more laid-back, kind of relaxed episode. The main gist of what happens is you see the Dwarven King and Rimuru. They basically establish the fact that they're good friends with each other's nations, and at the same time they kind of talk politics a little bit. And then Rimuru and the boys go to an elven brothel, of course, because they're men of culture. And they kind of get found out by Shauna and Shion, which is also really funny. And then we also meet like a new character at the end, which is Mulan. The name should sound familiar. But we kind of start off the episode, Rimuru and the king are basically talking, the Dwarven King. They're kind of talking about like the dwarves that went with Rimuru. And how like the Dwarven King, like, he gave him a pardon, but like he's happy that they're not there anymore, just because like their talents in architecture, engineering, and all their other talents they have, they're better put to use where they are now than kind of staying in the capital and just kind of being left to obscurity. And that's kind of how the king kind of like makes it come across, which is true, because there's more good they can do outside the city. Like, even like they're masters of their crafts, like even within the Dwarven capital, but they're more left to their own devices, and like that's always better to like be left to your own devices, and you're more likely to come up with more creative ideas to make things. And that's kind of what's happening right now in Rimru's Empire. They're making like great like roadways, like all these great structures, like buildings, armor, like all these other like great things that they just want them to go out of their way and make. So the king's kind of happy that they're kind of where they are right now. Same thing with his former advisor, Vestia. He was like their head researcher, and he's just like going out of his. He's left to his own devices as well, and so like he doesn't want to go meet the Dwarven King again until like he invents something like, you know, spectacular. Basically, this was so the Dwarven King is kind of really curious how like Rimuru and his people beat Charybdis, which is that massive giant flying demon thing from season 1, and Rimuru is like, yeah, that was Milim, and the king and the like one of his like top soldiers is like, yeah, you keep telling me that, but it's like a joke, right? And Rimuru keeps trying to explain, like, no, yeah, that was Milim. She's just that like stupidly strong, and then it like cuts to a picture of Milim, and she just looks, oh man, like I miss Milim. Like, I hope she comes back soon. She's such a fun character, but they don't believe her because she looks like this just bubbly like girl, but like she's also like basically like a nuke. Like, she can just like wipe out whole entire sections of like land if she needs to. So I do hope she comes back soon, because again, she's such a fun character. And then we get to, of course, like, this is gonna be like Rimru's Empire's like biggest export is like his brandy. Shauna like brings out like the apple brandy that like some of the dwarves make, and this is gonna be like, again, like their biggest export, because the Animal Kingdom Empire obviously loves it a lot too. They're willing to establish to provide like higher quality ingredients just so Rimuru like ships it to them. And then of course the Dwarven King loved it as well, and he wants to establish relationships with Rimru's Empire even more. Well, Rimuru and him are friends, of course, but on top of that, he really obviously, like, this is like some top end stuff, and I don't doubt that it's like highly refined and like really good brandy, but like everyone loves it, and this is gonna become like Rimru's like top export basically, like, so because he even like later in the episode he like gives it to when he goes to the elven brothel, he gives it to like the elven bartender there, and he asks her to like see how much she can get away to charge with per glass, so that he can kind of give kind of like a limited supply of it, kind of like, and like today there's like a really like high end God, I think it's a bourbon, it's Pappy Van Winkle. It's like a high end kind of like a brand that's like they only make so many a year, so it's like really expensive. Yeah, I can see Rimuru kind of making it like that, like where it's like, okay, like he'll give it to, like, other than it being used as like for like top diplomats and stuff like that, I can kind of see him going that route where like he makes like X amount of bottles per year, and it's like a finite quality per year, so people probably pay like stupid prices for it. So he kind of asked her to like kind of test it out on the locals, just to see how much like so you can get a good price point basically to charge it for. And then they're just talking, and like Shion just gets sloshed on the brandy, like she's just drunk, she's like just wasted, and she's just like messing around, and like Sean is like completely embarrassed because she's like the diplomatic like ogre. She's like, you know, she has great courtesy, and like, you know, like all the great decorum, but like Shion is like the complete opposite. She's just the super outgoing, just kind of walking disaster waiting to happen, and she just ends up getting completely sloshed on the alcohol, and she ends up like fainting. Rimuru has to go take her back to her room, basically. So after Rimuru goes back and takes her to her room, it cuts to the next day where Rimuru, to like solidify the fact that the king of the dwarves and Rimuru are like good friends, he like has to give a speech, and it's really funny at first because he's like super nervous. He even mentions afterwards, like even at work he was always really bad at giving speeches. Like I was like, oh god, I was like, I can relate to that. Every time I have to give a speech, it sounds like a kindergartner like giving a presentation. So he gives it. It ends up being a good speech. Like it, the whole gist of it, he makes this like proclamation of like he's creating this like empire. Like he wants to make like an empire that like all these different monsters and all these different races can kind of like live their own way, and like they can all live in solidarity, and like they they don't have any problems or like fighting with each other. And he's making that come true. Like even the Dwarven Empire, like currently, like there's a lot of monsters that live among the dwarves, and they all have pretty good relations as well. So like the people who he's giving a speech to, like already like are kind of used to this, but they're obviously pretty happy to have like a good relationship with like a kingdom / empire that also shares those kind of goals as well. A quick point, like going back to like at the beginning, because I got skipped over a part. the Dwarven King is kind of jealous because like Rimuru is just so stupid powerful, but like he's getting along with like demon lords because he mentions to the Dwarven King that he's getting along with the animal kingdom, and like his kingdom hasn't even got along with them yet. So and he's like, what? How do you're getting along with like Milim, who's like just stupid powerful, and he's also getting along with like Carrion and like all these other like demon lords, and like he's a little bit jealous that Rimuru is kind of like building like doing a better job, I guess, at like empire building. But it's not like a point of contention. It's not like he's jealous or anything, but he's just curious. So that kind of, everyone loves the speech, but there's a funny part where the Dwarven King kind of like laments like Rimuru, like he's like, you're too genuine, you're too like humility. He's like, great things don't come like naturally if you're like wanting to build like an empire. Like you have to do these through sheer force of will. Because Rimuru thought the speech went well, but he says he's kind of glad that the Dwarven King's there, so that way it kind of gives them like a sincere point of view, like that he may not get from anyone else. And then we cut to Rimuru and the boys. So him, the dwarves, and like the goblins are like looking for a good night on the town. And honestly, where else are you gonna go in a dwarven city? You're of course gonna go to the elven brothel, which is what they all do. It's the same one that he went to in season 1 when he first like visited the Dwarven Empire. So like of course you have like all these hot elf bays, and it's like as soon as like he enters the door, it's the same ones too. Like they're like, oh, we missed you, we didn't forget you, we thought you forgot about us. And of course like he gets like a titty hug from like the two like super hot ones. So but the best part was Gopta. Oh my, I love Gopta, dude. Like he sees like this just like dime elf, like she's like super hot, like blonde, and like of course like all the right curves and all the like right places, like, and he sees her and like his heart like shoots out of his chest. I'm like, Gopta is like the audience right now, like we all feel that way, and so like he's taken aback with her because she's being like really flirtatious with him, and the whole scene at the brothel is actually really funny. My favorite part is when Gopta, he's like doing this handstand, and then like the super hot like dime elf, like they're all dimes, but this one's like a dime. So she places like a wine glass on him, and he's just like, hey, like that's kind of dangerous. And she's like, well, if you break it, you can like pay with it like through your body. And Gopta just like it's obviously probably gets a mad hard on, and like he has like all this blood that just like shoots out of him, and it's actually a really funny scene because he just like passes out from blood loss. It's kind of like the stereotypical kind of anime scene where it's just like when a character sees like like a fan service moment where like they'll have a nosebleed, but Gopta just had like a brain hemorrhage, like, and I thought that whole moment was pretty funny. And of course, after that, we see that like when I mentioned earlier, Rimuru kind of goes to the bartender and like tries to see how much she can like set a price point at with his apple brandy. And so everything's going fine, going fine. And but the boys are done with their night on the town. Everyone's sloshed. Everyone, of course, got some like quality time with the elven women. And then Gobzo screwed it up. He snitched. Everyone was told not to tell Shauna and Shion, and Gobzo's an idiot and told her. And so it's great. She has this like fiery like look about her, like this like super passive aggressive look at her, and like you see her eyes kind of go on fire, and Shion's just mad because she didn't get invited. But my favorite part of the whole exchange, when the dwarves are like trying to sneak off, and like Shauna kind of catches them and looks like she bathes them in fire. It ends up with basically like Rimuru, like he has to eat Shion's cooking for a week, and Shion's a terrible cook. For those of you who remember in season 1, like she basically like her like actual cooking is like eating like weapons grade plutonium. Like it's terrible for you, and Rimuru has to eat it for a week, and that's Shauna's kind of penance for him. And then the way the episode kind of ends off, it ends off with Yam, and he goes back to like his home empire, and then like he kind of meets his friend, and he meets this really powerful mage girl whose name is Mulan, and she's like super powerful, kicks Yam's ass, and then like that's kind of how the episode ends. Again, overall, this episode was, it felt like kind of a filler episode, but I honestly thought it was hilarious. I really enjoyed the whole brothel scene with the boys, and the whole political bit with Rimuru and the King was really good as well. That's all I got for this episode, guys. What did you think of this episode? Did you think did Gobzo mess up? Like, should he not have told Shauna? Like, total snitch. I can't believe he did that to the boys, but. Again, I thought the best moment was when Gobzo just had like a massive brain hemorrhage. Well, let me guys know what you thought of the episode in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.